Plot Twisters.
This is a podcast where we take movies and twist the plot to see if we can make them better, and if not, beastlier.
At the moment, we're talking about kids' movies from the 90s.
On this episode, The Sandlot from 1993.
I'm Anders, and I'm an L7 weenie.
I'm Emma. Anyone who wants to be a can't hack it panty waist who has a mama's bra, raise your hand.
I don't know if this translates because it's an audio medium, but I'd put my hand up.
I assume
What's wrong with that?
I'm assuming all our listeners are raising their hands right now, right?
100%. Because it sounds... Wait, what did I just put my hand up to? Who wants to be a...
You want to be a can't hack it panty waist who wears their mama's bra.
I mean, we're all a little bit curious. Where do I do the... Does it go in the front or in the back, and how do I do the clasps?
Yeah, do you put it on and then swing it round, or do you do this arms first? This is subjective.
I'm already way over my head here, okay? I actually don't know.
There's two different ways of putting on a bra, and different people have different preferences, basically.
Yeah.
But it's the same as, how people put their t-shirts on differently.
Yeah.
Some people pull it over their heads.
Yeah.
Some people it's a whole thing,
You know what I do? I just put my head in the big hole and my arms in the small holes.
I do feet in first
for your shirts. Yeah, okay, I'm with you.
Pull it up and then do up all the buttons.
Yeah.
And then you pull the shoelaces at the back to get the corset in.
Your shoes.
I put my t-shirts on one leg at a time, just like everybody else.
And then I do the corset up. Your shirts are different than mine, and that very much is the it fits in the zeitgeist of what it is we're doing here, right? Our differences are our sames, if you will.
Yes, our sames.
Sameses.
Yep.
Yeah.
Grammar.
Hey, the Sandlot, right? This is the movie we just watched, The Sandlot.
The Sandlot. It was a sandlot. It was a lot. It was
sandy.
Never mind. So this movie I've noticed was called The Sandlot in some places and The Sandlot Kids in other places. So if you don't know the film The Sandlot, you may know the film The Sandlot Kids. Because that's the name.
I like to imagine there's people out there going, what movie are they talking about?
What could they possibly be talking about?
He's talking about The Sandlot. Well, I have no reference point for that. Oh, no, they're talking about The Sandlot Kids. The Sandlot Kids.
That's a whole
I've
other
seen
thing.
that, right? I mean, how many movies are called The Sandlot? Turns out there's 3. We'll get to that in a second.
Okay.
Would you, Emma, like me to give you a rundown of this movie?
Hit me
with your best shot. I'm going to fire away. So it starts with you meet this kid called Scotty Smalls. He's a lonely kid who's
He's a nerd.
He's a nerd, right? He's a nerdy kid
Big ol' nerd.
whose mom and his new stepdad have just moved to Salt Lake City right at the end of the year. And I think it's like the 1960s, probably the late 60s. He doesn't know anybody. He doesn't have any friends, and he's a nerd.
Well, it's the start of the summer, isn't it? It's the start of the summer period, because he says
yeah.
"Oh, I didn't manage to make any friends at school before summer," which is like
he got there
death to a young child.
100%. I mean, he got there like 2 weeks before the end of the year. He barely learned where home ec was, let alone made any friends. Anyway, so Scotty, Smalls, he just doesn't have any friends, and his mom, played by Karen Allen, who you'll recall was in Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. That was pretty cool. Seeing her, I'm like, oh, you're from Indiana Jones. His mom goes, you should make some friends, because you can't stay inside playing with your toys all summer. You need to go and make some friends. So he tries. What's his? Hey,
hey,
it's the 70s,
you dumb
60s.
kid! You don't have any friends, you loser. Sort yourself out.
Hey, loser son. Sorry, I just moved you to a different state where you don't know anybody, and sorry your dad died. Right? This is your fault. Okay? You don't know how to throw a ball. That's your fault.
That's your fault. What's
not
wrong
mine.
with you idiot?
Right? So this is the mom says, you go make some friends. And he goes, I'm trying. I don't know what to do here. Anyway, so he sees some kids. He's into baseball because his stepdad's into baseball. Should have said that. He sees some kids like playing baseball after school in this mythical place called the Sandlot, which is literally an empty lot behind some houses. They're playing baseball, and he's like, I'm just going to follow these kids. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my toy baseball mitt and hat and just go out there and stand in the outfield, and I guess they'll be my friends because I'm here. So he goes, and he's sitting there, and he's just like trying to like, silently fit in. And we find out that he really can't play baseball. He can't throw, he can't catch, let alone, we don't even know if he can hit, so he's just not good.
Because he's a nerd, that's...
Because he's a nerd.
That's what, nerds can't
Nerds
do
don't know
sports.
how to...
No.
Nerds don't do... nerds equal sign with a line through it sports. if you will.
That was a very nerdy way of putting that.
All right. Cosine, cosine, negative b
Square
plus or
root of
minus.
nerd.
Exactly
equal.
equals...
Yeah,
but definitely equals this kid. It doesn't equal sports. All would have been lost if not for the friend that he was about to make, and the gesture of goodwill from Benny the Jet Rodriguez. Yep, Benny and the Jets. Yep. We're all thinking it. Benny the Jet Rodriguez goes up to him and he goes, "Hey, your baseball mitt is a toy. Have my extra one and have a hat and also wear jeans and also come and keep playing baseball with us." Cut to, they're all playing baseball. Bunch of kids in the Sandlot having the summer of their lives playing baseball and going to the pool. It's a real sort of like nostalgia fest. They ate s'mores. They're playing baseball. They're listening to music from the 50s. It's all great.
Hanging out, having a good time.
Just hanging out, having a good time.
Being kids.
So they're playing baseball. They hit the ball over the fence. It's gone. And we know there's something scary over the fence, but we haven't figured it out yet. Smalls goes, "Hey, I got a baseball. I'm going to go home and get it." The baseball he goes home and gets is his stepdad's autographed by the Babe Ruth baseball.
Who is a baseball player, I'm led to believe.
Who is a baseball? You're led to believe.
I had not heard of Babe Ruth until this film.
The Sultan of SWAT?
I'm very sorry, Americans.
The King of Crash?
If that's the person that you know.
The Colossus of Clout? The Titan of Terror?
You knew who he was, right?
The Great Bambino? Babe Ruth. Babe Ruth.
Okay.
He's a famous baseball player. Babe Ruth's a famous baseball player. They named a candy bar after him. It's called the Babe Ruth.
Really? Wow.
I think it's called Baby Ruth, actually. It's got nuts, it's got peanuts in it. He was a guy, he was like so good at hitting baseballs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he like points at the field and is like, "I'm going to hit the ball out there." That's what he would do.
Yeah. That's cool.
Can you imagine the bravado in someone being like, "I'm going to hit a home run. Watch this." Anyway, so he goes and gets this precious ball signed by Babe Ruth, who you now know is quite a famous baseball player.
Yes.
And he goes, "Hey guys, let's play with this priceless heirloom." But he doesn't know because he's a kid and he doesn't know about baseball and he wants to fit in so much that he'll steal from his stepdad. Long story short, he hits a home run and the ball goes straight over the fence and into the mouth of Hercules, a giant, larger-than-life dog, who we learned at a sleepover apparently was fed lots of meat, became super, super huge, ate a bunch of bad guys, and has been chained up ever since by Mr. Myrtle. And if you hit a baseball over the fence, it's gone. If anything goes over the fence, it's gone.
There's a fun little kind of clip of the story of the beast, right? And it's like shot in black and white, and it's very comic and over the top. I thought that was very good.
But Smalls is like, "Y'all, we need to get this baseball back because it's not my baseball and it belongs to my stepdad. And if I don't get it, like, I'm in a lot of trouble." So they try a bunch of things and they use a lot of like a vacuum cleaner and a bunch of like erector sets and they try to get it and they can't get it back until finally remember Benny, the Jet Rodriguez? He has a dream where actually the Babe Ruth himself comes and visits him and says, "Hey man, want to get that baseball? Just jump over the fence and get it." And he's like, "But I can't because there's a dog." And he goes, "Just run faster than the dog. Go get the ball." Next day, jumps over the fence, gets the ball, runs really fast. But the ball's all chewed up. They go to the house on the other side of the fence, the owner of the dog, and they knock on the door and they go like, "Hey, sorry, the fence broken. Your dog." And who opens the door? Oh, right. It's Darth Vader himself, James Earl Jones, who, as it happens, just so happens to be an ex-professional baseball player who gives the kid a baseball signed by not only Babe Ruth, but all the other guys on the team from that year. Problem solved. And flash to the future, and Benny the Jet Rodriguez is a famous baseball player playing for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and Smalls is a baseball commentator. He's still wearing that goofy hat, and he's got both the chewed up ball and the new ball and baseball, and everybody likes baseball, and it's a movie about baseball and about kids and about baseball, and they baseball and baseball.
Basically, the film is kind of like consists of a series of like vignettes of different moments of these kids' lives, right? Of their specific summer, which is really fun. And there's this thing about needing to retrieve the baseball, which comes in pretty late into the film. Right. But it's foreshadowed fairly early by the narrator, who kind of says, there was this summer where we played baseball, but there was this big problem that was coming, and I really got everyone into a pickle. And it really like
the biggest pickle of our lives.
Yeah. And really builds that up. So that kind of drives you through these little moments of the story towards the end, and hypes it up a lot. So that was quite successfully done, I thought.
It felt very nostalgic, even though I didn't live in the 60s.
Well, that's part of the thing, isn't it? Much like a recent film that we discussed, Dazed and Confused, and Detroit to Rock City. This was a film that was made in the 90s, but was set quite a lot earlier. So it's sort of cool in a way, because I guess from an audience perspective, you can appeal to both kids of the 90s, but also their parents.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
you
a
win them
movie
all
for everybody.
So I'm guessing that you've never seen this movie before.
I haven't even heard of a Sandlot before, let alone not seen this movie or know the title. Yeah,
watch it fresh.
Is a Sandlot a thing, like, or is this just it's a specific name for this one? Would you say
I've never heard?
No? Okay, fine.
There's only one Sandlot in my recollection, and that is this movie.
Okay,
I've never heard of a Sandlot, although I'm sure that it probably means like
what it is.
Okay, well there are. So like in America, at least in my experience, there's a baseball diamond like everywhere, right? There's baseball diamond, they're everywhere. There are really good ones, and then there's also like really makeshift ones that that are just sort of, you know, in a vacant lot or whatever. So maybe a Sandlot is a thing. I've never heard of it, but I bet it's a thing.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, yeah, kind of like how we have football fields everywhere.
You just need grass, right?
Yeah.
You just need grass.
Yeah, well, we would like have, you know, you just put your school bag on one side and your, you know, coat on the other side, and there you go. There's a goal.
There you go.
And
They did
football.
the same thing
That's
with.
football,
They did
kids.
this. There you go. Done. Take a note. Dennis Burkamp, right? Anyone? It's the only soccer player I could think of. We did the same thing with baseball. You just put the bases out. You know, like my hat is a base, and my book bag is a base, or whatever. You're gonna hit the ball. Mm-hmm. You don't need any special equipment.
Nope.
But you've never seen this movie. You never heard of this movie.
Nope.
I'd love to know, what did you think of it?
I thought it was great. I thought it was really good. I thought it was very charming. I'd really recommend this film to anyone. It's a very feel good film, which I think is always a bit of a cop out as a description, because it's so subjective. You know, it's like, well, just because you feel good, it may not make me feel good, because we may not have the same preferences and values in life. But it's very uplifting because it does that thing that I think we both really like in films and TV shows, which it nails a feeling of community, and it nails a feeling of like a group of people that get on really well, and everyone has their own kind of role, and everyone has their place, and they're all united by a situation, and you feel really involved, you feel really pulled into this group, and the bonus was that because they were all kids, and because it was very, very nostalgic, and because they really nailed the feeling of like what is concerning to a child and what a child worries about. It was also, it makes you feel like a kid again. So it was great. I really enjoyed it. I would be really interested to know what a child now would think of this film. Like, I don't know, maybe when your kid's a bit older, you can get them to watch it, and then we can ask them what they thought. If it's something that they would still like, because I think, I don't know, but again, I was technically alive in the 90s, so maybe that gives me more of a connection to it. Did you like it then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
listen, I remember seeing this movie when I was like a preteen, and then I've seen it. I don't know. I probably haven't seen it in 10 years, but I definitely watched it when I was younger a lot for a couple of reasons. One, because I was really into baseball when I was a kid.
Okay.
Yeah, like I like baseball. I was into it. If ever I was affiliated with a sport, it was baseball. Mostly when I was a younger kid. I abandoned these things when I got to high school because other things took my fancy.
Well, because, the media told you that wasn't something that was a permitted part of your specific range of personality, right?
Exactly. Plus my chain wallet and all of my goth makeup really would have gotten in the way of sports and hitting that home run. But no, I was like, I played, minor league. No. I played Pee Wee League baseball when I was a kid. And I don't know, baseball is like it's a thing that, at least for me, was really important and was important with my friends and stuff. And so, I think a lot of, maybe it's just an American thing, but American kids could probably really relate to this movie. When you're a kid and you have sort of like a pickup baseball game thing going on with your friends, I didn't have a ragtag team of sort of kids that were really into baseball, but like we'd go and play baseball from time to time, and I like the game. I'm into it.
While we're on sports, because I think maybe we've discussed this before, but in Britain we had a similar sport called rounders.
Oh yeah.
Which is basically the same. I think, I don't know.
Yeah,
kinda. You have a ball. You have a round bat. You hit the thing, and then you run. It's the same.
I feel like rounders is like, it's the same, but it's different in that, like, how in England soccer is really important, right? Like people love it, right? They're really into it.
Yes.
In America, kids play soccer a bit, and then they don't play it when they're older because it's not that big of a deal. I kind of feel like baseball's the opposite.
Oh yeah, no. In terms of the culture, it's definitely not the same at all. I think, but in terms of like the actual sport, the actual
bases,
game,
hit the ball,
similar.
bat. Yeah,
but yeah, no, it's not anywhere near the same. It's something that I think you play it as a kid in the summer. So we would, there'd be like a transition period where we would go from playing hockey to playing rounders,
right.
And we sometimes would play it, I guess, as adults in the summer or whatever, is because it's like something that you can very easily pick up, and if you're not hugely sporty, you can still do okay at it. I think is quite good.
Totally.
Even if you're just like Scotty Smalls standing in the background and trying to catch the ball every now and again, you can still be involved. And that's what I really liked about it. Again, my experience was with rounders, but I assume it'd probably be the same with baseball. I think it's a very inclusive thing because something like soccer or American football, or like lots of other kinds of sports, you have to be moving constantly, and the kind of roles are somewhat similar. But with baseball / rounders, there's a place for everyone, because you can be the guy, you can be the backstop, which I don't know what the word for that is in baseball.
The catcher.
Fine, catcher. Okay.
Yeah, the catcher, because he catches the ball.
Kind of obvious. Be the bowler, you can hit,
like
you can be in the whatever. So there's lots of different roles. I always liked that. I always really loved that sport. So yeah, I have similar fond memories in my little British version.
The thing is too, like, you're right? So like there's a nostalgia, and it sounds like it translates to England too. Playing baseball or rounders in the summertime, you're not at school, sense of community, people coming together, playing this game, super cool, super fun. And like, that's what this movie was. It was just like kids who desperately needed to connect with other people in that like really tough time of like late preteen kind of vibe in the summer before they go into like high school. And then, we've talked a lot about high school, and so this is really nice because we're sort of in that like just before high school kind of vibe, and it was cool to see that translate And for me, it felt so nostalgic. I didn't care what year it was. It was like, yes, it's summer. They're going to the pool. They're playing baseball. They're talking trash to each other, but really they all want to be friends. Having sleepovers and stuff.
There's a lovely balance, I think, between independence and innocence at this stage. Like, they're old enough to go out and do things by themselves without their parents, but they're still young enough to be innocent, and they're not really trying to impress anyone. They're more focused on having fun. So it's that lovely little golden spot just there.
Yeah, exactly. You were right on it.
I think the other thing that's nice about it is the presence of the Sandlot itself. It's this little microcosm. It's its own little paradise, isn't it? That it's, like you said, it has this almost spiritual significance as a location. And I think that the thing about it being presented as somebody looking back on their childhood, you have these places, and there's this weird experience of place that changes as you grow up. One of them is that you physically get bigger, and so like you remember places differently. I don't know if you've had this. You go back somewhere you used to go as a kid, and it's just like, this was tiny.
Totally. It's so small. What happened?
But it's also in terms of your memory. You remember it differently. You remember it kind of looking different and feeling different. And so that's something I think that as a grown up, for me anyway, I really noticed that. I really kind of go, okay, I'm in this place as a different type of human now.
Man, when I'm in places that I haven't been since I was a kid, sometimes I'll just stand there and sort of really soak it up, and because it feels like an important place, and that might actually be incorrect. It might be, for example, the parking lot of a Denny's or whatever, right? Or or like the playground at your middle school. But for me, when I'm back in that place, it's like, this is part of my origin story. This is an important place for me, and I think that's such a wild thing when you find yourself back in an old setting. Sometimes I think about like what it would give if I could just like press a button and see footage of the past me's
a little montage
in this space
over time.
But if I could press the button and rewatch my memories from that space, it would fill my heart with joy.
Do you have anywhere that has like a Sandlot-esque significance in your life?
Yeah, I mean, when we were kids, we lived on the edge of this big field. I think they used to grow corn there, but like when I was a kid, they just grew. What is it when you grow nothing, but there's just lots of stuff growing there?
I guess a meadow?
It's like a meadow. Yeah, it was like a meadow. Across the meadow, there was a creek, and we used to go there and play and find crawdads and stuff, and like crawdads, crayfish, I think they're called, right? And one time we built, I don't want to brag, but one time we built this dam, and we made like kind of this pond, and we had a wishing well as well. I threw some good money into that wishing well. Point being, we used to go there when we were kids a lot, and it was a beautiful place. I've been there as a grown-up. It's like a tiny little creek in the middle of like a nothing woods, about the size of like like a moderate house or whatever. So it's a tiny little spot, but in my mind, it's this beautiful flowing river through a picturesque forest adjacent to a beautiful meadow. What about you? You got the same vibe?
The one that most sticks out to me was, as I might have mentioned before, my grandparents lived on the Isle of Man. So I would go there for 2 weeks every summer throughout my entire life, basically. The Isle of Man has these really lovely places, like these, they're called glens. And there was a specific glen called Silverdale. And Silverdale had like a boating lake, and it had a playground, and it had like these beautiful like little walks that you could go round. And to me, that was just like the most magic, amazing, perfect fantasy wonderland ever. So, whenever we would go on holiday, it was like, oh my God, can we go to Silverdale? Can we go to Silverdale? again, I've been there as an adult, and it's just like a little cafe with a couple of swings or whatever. But it was just sort of this place that had this like presence in my existence that was very important.
I love that, right? And that's, I would imagine most people have that. They have these really concrete, super present memories that are positive, that are fun, that are really lovely. They're linked to family, right? Or adolescence, or both. And your mind can go there. And I as you're saying, I think that's why people like a movie like The Sandlot, because it's nostalgia. At the beginning of this movie, we are greeted with the voice of the adult version of this kid, literally remembering this place that he experienced the most pivotal moments of adolescence. And it wasn't something major, right? He just was playing baseball with some friends. I could watch this movie all day long because it's just nostalgic, calming, wonderful balm, even though there's a horrendous, beastly dog, right? At some point in the movie, most of it's like, remember the 60s and everything was great and we played baseball and like, this new band called the Beatles and we're all having a lovely time. And
you would have loved that so much.
I would have loved it so much. I would have loved it so much.
I think that it is worth saying that it does do it really well. I think like one thing that really stood out to me was how good the child actors were, because that's a thing that you can get very wrong. They all did a very good job. They were all very engaging. I thought they were all quite individual, and the characters were very clear and they worked together quite well. I don't know. Did you have a favorite kid?
I mean, I really like yeah. Right? Because he seemed a little sassy, and also like what kind of a 12-year-old has already adopted such a mannerism, such an affect that he literally responds to every question with the phrase yeah, this is what it is, right? I like yeah. What about you? Who did you like?
100% Ham. Without a doubt.
I
love Ham so
fan.
much. He was so funny and so charismatic and hilarious. The bit where he's walking along the edge of the pool and he's like waving at all the, what was it they called them? Like pool babes or something? Pool honeys.
But yeah, exactly.
And he waves at all
the pool honeys.
That was so good. Oh, hilarious.
Yes, it was great. You're right. They were all really good. They were all pretty much new actors.
Yeah.
They weren't, some of them had been in a few things, but they were basically just kids in a movie for the first time ever. And you're right, they all did such a good job.
Yeah, so that was really good. I thought because there were these little different stories, so there was like first of all there's Scotty's kind of induction into the group, which was your way into the group. That kind of like it sort of faded out for a bit and then it came back that he was kind of the protagonist. But I thought that was okay. Like there's quite a few things, that being one of them, that could have been a bit weird and made it feel a bit flaky, but it didn't. I thought it was really good. Like, you're brought in through this kid's experience. You two felt a bit sort of disjointed learning about this world, and then these kids welcome you into it. And they were all really fun. Like the part with the fairground.
Oh, they're all chewing tobacco. They all puke
and they're all
everywhere.
really sick. I mean, that was super gross. It was super gross.
Yeah, exactly. You ever chew tobacco, by the way?
No.
It is 100% disgusting.
Ugh.
Can I hit you with some facts about this movie?
Hit me.
All right. Fact number 1. This movie was written, directed, narrated, and based on the childhood real occurrences of David Mickey Evans. That's right. He's a quadruple threat. When he was a kid, he and his brother moved to a new neighborhood. The kids around the neighborhood didn't treat him very well. His brother tried to become friends with these kids playing baseball in the neighborhood, and they hit a ball over the fence. And he thought, if I go over the fence and get the ball, maybe they'll be my friends. He jumped over the fence, got the ball, and a giant dog horrendously bit him in the leg.
Ooh.
Fact. Yes.
Wow.
Guess what the dog was called?
Hercules.
Correct. The dog was called Hercules.
And it's interesting because that feels like that's the sort of thing that happens to you as a kid that is so exciting. It's obviously not nice to be bitten, so sorry, David McEvans, but
sorry,
it's
bro.
so exciting that you talk about it forever, you know? Like I think I was forever. When I was
forever.
like I think 4 or 5, I fell over and I bashed my chin and I cut my chin. Still have a scar on my chin from it.
So do I.
Do you?
Yeah, chin scar.
Way.
Yeah, I had a sledding accident, chin scar.
Wow.
What did you hit your chin on?
Just on a playground floor.
Huh.
Yeah, not a very
good. How many stitches did you get?
I mean, I have no idea. I did crack my head open. I got my head stapled back together though, so that was the other one. I had
good
3
golly, Miss Molly,
staples in my head. So both of those instances, I would talk about all the time. Like if I met an adult and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Emma and I'm 6, and guess what? This one time, I cracked my head open and had to have it stapled together." Because it's just so interesting to a child, isn't it? And it's almost like that has grown nicely into this sort of childhood fairy tale that exists within this film.
Totally. And this guy was like, I better write a movie about it because it was such a story that we talked about all the time. Wrote the movie. Most of the characters were based on his friends when he was a kid. Fun, interesting, but also a bit like sort of, uncomfortable fact about this movie is the real life human being who the character Squints was based on, attempted to sue 20th Century Fox, claiming that he had been, what's that thing when you're like liable, like you made me look bad, so liable? Defamation. And he was like, you based this character on me and made me look like a real nerd and I want money. And then the judge decided, no, you can't have the money from the movie Sandlot because they were different characters. I guess you might have been a bit like him, but whatever. What's interesting about that is there are people who believe that if he had won, a precedence would have been set that you cannot base characters on real life people.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, every movie that's ever been written, I'm sure, is in some way connected to some sort of real life experience, right?
It has to be.
Yeah, that's a difficult one to tackle, really, because you have to make you have to engineer certain things to make the movie work. So if you're getting precious, like, well, that's not actually real. It's like, well, none of it's real. It's a movie. I wrote it from my head and my memory.
Yeah. Do you really think that this is a dog that's as tall as a house? No, this is a made-up movie.
I would like to be nitpicky about one.
Let's do it.
Tiny little thing, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
Because the headline is obviously this film was great, and there's just a footnote.
Yeah.
Which is there's this thing where they say like, oh, you throw like a girl. Oh, I don't want to bring my sister in, and it's just every now and again, and like, it's set in the 60s. I understand, right? It was made in the 90s. I understand. I know that it was a different time. I know that it's in films, and I have no control over that, but I think it is just worth saying, like, when something like that happens, it just kind of snaps me out of it, just for a second.
Totally.
And I have this moment of like, oh, because I identify as a woman. I was a girl. Yeah. And it just makes you feel excluded just for a second from a film which is all about community and feeling part of a team. You just for a moment, you get this little reminder, like, you can't be in this because you're a girl.
Yeah.
I think the thing that's sad is that, like, you have a daughter, you would potentially want to show her this film at some point, perhaps. And I just think about someone like her has to watch this film and think, yeah, this is great, this is really good fun, and then there's just this moment where it's like, oh, but you can't do this, And it's the same with race representation, with sexuality and identity representation. We just have to remember that, like, there are these moments where you just kind of go, oh, it just sucks that it's such a nice movie, and then there's this sort of little rejection to some people. So
perhaps the term is microaggressions. If someone says you throw like a girl, that's a microaggression because actually that's saying that you are bad at throwing because girls are bad at throwing.
Yeah.
Which is A, not correct, and B, it's just a crappy thing to say.
It's a general assumption that anything associated with femininity is bad. So even if women couldn't throw as well, it's like, oh, but it's the fact that we're using that feminine, association, and that's not good. And they do that again with like when he says like, oh, I'm not going to bring my sister to this, and I was very lucky in the sense that my brother, when I was younger, was very good at bringing me in stuff. But I do remember, like, I wanted to play football just as much as he did, but there would be moments where it's like, well, you don't do that because you're a girl, so you don't do that.
Yeah.
And it's just a shame because, again, like, it brings up that memory for me, and
sucks.
Yeah, it's just a thing. But hey,
do you want to know some good news?
Yeah.
The good news is, in the sequel to this movie, The Sandlot 2, right? It's actually called The Sandlot Kids 2, to be honest.
Oh, gosh.
So in the sequel,
yes.
I haven't watched it, but I watched the trailer, and in the trailer, it's set 10 years later. So it's 1972, I guess.
Oh.
And somebody throws that same insult because they thought, this is fun, right? You throw like a girl, and then it kind of it does this record scratch sound, and it pans to a girl in the crowd, and she goes, "What did you say?" And that, I think, is enough reason to watch the sequel.
Fixed.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I thought you were going to say in the sequel it was all girls, but no.
No, it's still
not
all
quite,
boys.
Not quite there.
Actually, based on the trailer, it's all boys, I think, and maybe one girl.
But now the girls can speak up about it at least. So we're one step further.
Girls can do anything they want, especially be obnoxious about feminism. Am I right?
Well,
that's
I'm living proof of that every day of my life. Obnoxiously feminist. I wanna rock and roll all night. And also scroll through my phone as a way of entertaining myself when I wake up from nightmares in the middle of the night. You know what's some great content to look at? Everything on @PlotTwistersPod on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Keeps the nightmares away. One thing I was quite disappointed about in this film was the fact that the dog wasn't giant. Yeah, it was just a dog.
Totally.
So
disappointed. I was disappointed,
particularly because it builds up to it throughout the whole film. And I mean, obviously, yes, it made sense in the real film, but for this specific fun purpose, shall we make it a real beast?
A real giant beast dog?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm 100% aligned to that, and let me tell you why. The backstory, the black and white film, the vignette, if you will, that we saw about this dog that was fed like a Flintstones size piece of meat every day to become huge, right? Mm-hmm. In my mind, that dog became as big as a house. So how does the dog become so big? That's the question. Is it the meat?
If we look at the Clifford the Big Red Dog origin story.
Ah, all right. I'm with you. Clifford the Big Red Dog. How did he become big? Because of love from that blonde girl? Is that what happened? Was it gamma rays? Was it some sort of like...
Was he bitten by a radioactive spider?
Did he step in the ooze, right? A la Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? How does a small thing become big? That's the question we need to answer right now.
You're right. His owner loved him so much. Turns out there's quite a lot of, by the way, side note, there's quite a lot of discourse about Clifford the Big Red Dog on the internet.
Yeah, it's controversial, right?
There's an article here which is just why Clifford the Big Red Dog makes no sense.
It's a giant dog, and he will destroy us all.
This article, it says, just because you love something, that won't make it grow. If that were true, the girl I have a crush on would be about 600 feet tall right now.
Oh, that is a story I would love to unpack with that poster, but we don't have time.
No.
What we need to decide is, here's the big question. Emma, whatever you decide, we'll go with. Did Hercules grow because of hate or love?
Hate.
All right, fine. And that's canonical, right? So here's a dog who was driven by hate because Mr. Myrtle kept him chained up and made him eat thieves, right?
Yes. Yeah, sure.
But is it just the hate that made him grow and the big meat?
So maybe,
something else?
I don't know. So maybe Mr. Myrtle has some kind of like precious possessions that he needs to protect, and those possessions are potentially cursed.
Whoa.
In some way.
So they're cursed. Maybe Mr. Myrtle's great-great-grandfather fought in yours and mine favorite war, World War II. Okay.
Is that my favorite?
Is that our favorite war? All right.
Okay.
Our favorite war
yeah,
is no. Our favorite war is, of course, the War of Independence.
The Battle of Five Armies. Oh, sorry.
Our favorite war is that one against the White Walkers and the regular people at the wall.
Mm.
So here's what happened. Mr. Myrtle's dad fought in Dub 2, and he brought back some trophies, is what he called them. But what they actually were cursed gold. Okay?
Okay.
Why were they cursed? Nobody knows. It was a complicated era.
It's kind
right?
of Pirates of the Caribbean adjacent, which is that like they took all the gold and there was like a blood pact and stuff. It's always you can always stick a blood pact in there.
Hey, listen, can we parlay for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I'm thinking. It is like the Pirates of the Caribbean, and you got that guy from The Office, Rupert Grint. No, wait, he was from Harry Potter. You got that guy from The Office, and he's also like a ghost or whatever, or a Bones guy. He's a skeleton.
There are more like guidelines than actual rules.
That's a quote from that movie, isn't it?
I've got a jar of dirt.
Yep.
Carry on.
You know what's cool is that movie was about pirates. So Mr.
You best
Myrtle,
start believing in ghost stories.
Davy Jones's locker.
You're in one.
You're in one.
Yes, sorry. Carry on.
And so Mr. Myrtle inherited this gold, and he's thinking, my life will be great, my life will be fortuitous, and I will have a good time. But it's cursed gold. And so what happens is his life is bad, and his little pup Hercules, licks the gold, and he becomes a giant, bloodthirsty, bad dog.
And he's angry.
And he's angry because he's so big.
What can I have a question? I have
All
a script consultation question.
Yeah, let's get into the script room. Here we are. Close the door.
How similar is the this new script to the original script? And at what point in the original script do we introduce the cursed dog? Because in the original, the dog thing crops up kind of like kind of like 2/3 of the way into the film, I would say.
Yeah.
So are we keeping it the same up until this point?
Nah.
And all the kids are the same,
Nah.
and but suddenly there's this like horrendous no?
Here's what I'm thinking, right? You take out all the heartwarming stuff, because we're making a new movie, right?
Uh-huh.
It's called The Sandlot.
Take out all the
Curse of the Sandlot.
You know what nobody needs right now? Heartwarming movies.
No. Guess what?
About the past.
Guess what?
They need the truth.
The movie starts, and there's already a ragtag team of kids. They play baseball in the Sandlot. And they're having a good time. They're playing baseball. Yeah is there. And Ham is there. And Smalls is already there. They're playing baseball.
Yes.
5 minutes into the movie, they hit a ball over that fence. And one of the kids goes, oh no. The beast is going to get him.
And there's like a rumbling, right?
Boom.
So there's the part where in the original script where he gets close to the fence, and then it kind of there's that effect of it like rattling,
it's
and
shaking.
it's like a shape.
Yeah.
So I want to do that, but I want to intensify this a bit, and it's kind of it could potentially go down like a bit of a Lovecraft angle.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, do you know about?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. You walk me through it. Take my hand through this Garden of Eden.
So it's an author, H.P. Lovecraft. Bad dude.
Uh-huh.
Fairly good stories. So anyway, he wrote stories which were basically centered around the idea that the reality we experience is an illusion, and the closer we get to insanity, the closer we get to the truth.
Ew.
And there's like monsters like Cthulhu. If you've heard of Cthulhu, that's him.
I've heard of Cthulhu.
Yeah, like ancient ones. So anyway, it's a bit like trippy, and the ground starts cracking.
Yes.
And the trees start bending in.
Yes.
And there's this like ancient, unspeakable force and this rumbling, and this child starts to have this like horrendous vision of like,
yeah,
oh my god. But then as soon as he like steps away, it stops.
Yeah, it's a proximity thing, right? You can't go into deep left field without speaking in tongues.
Yeah. Oh, no, yeah. And sometimes maybe we see it from the other boy's perspective.
And they're like, what the hell's going on with
It cuts from him like in this kind of like terrifying nightmare, and then it cuts to the other boys. They're just looking at him, and he's just stood there like vibrating and kind of going, ah.
And that's the
kind of like my life, really.
Kind of like your life whenever you approach. When is it that you start to speak in tongues? Have you noted what is your proximity? It's not the beast. What is it?
It's just the reality of existence.
It's obligation of life. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and it but there is a big dog. I don't know. Maybe I haven't shared this with you in enough detail. There is a big beastly dog.
Yeah.
Also called Clifford.
Can I ask you a question? I mean, listen, if you're telling me that you are in fact being chased by a big dog called Clifford your whole life, right? It's
not really chased. It's more of like he's just there everywhere, you know? So anywhere I turn.
Right. Is this in fact some sort of a like your
manifestation of
exactly? Yeah. Is it a His Dark Materials situation?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's like no one else can see Clifford the big road dog, but I can see him and I know he's there. It's like the film Harvey, where the guy has the invisible rabbit. It's kind of like that, but it's a lot more terrifying.
Hey, listen, has the dog ever bit you? You can tell me. I'm a friend.
He's never gotten close enough because he's always just around the corner.
On what percentage from 0 to 100 percentage of dread are you filled with on a daily basis because of this dog? Is it?
I don't know anything else. I only know the fear of the red dog.
Wow. I can tell you from experience, having no dog chasing me, it's pretty all right, actually.
Yeah.
When I look around and I see nothing chasing me or giving me the fears, I think that's fine.
So much like David Mickey Evans wrote, directed, and narrated this film.
Yeah.
I think this new version of The Sandlot is going to be... I'll write it and direct it, and I'll also voice the dog.
Yes.
It's just a retelling of my experiences of being a young boy in the 60s who plays lots of baseball and is also cursed. Have we made this too convoluted?
No. We have made it the exact percentage of convoluted it needs to be. So, Emma, there's only one more thing we need to do, and that is we need to rate this movie.
Okay.
I would love to know, on a scale of 1 to 5 s'mores, how many s'mores would you give the movie The Sandlot?
Well, I'm going to give it some more than 3 because I'm going to give it 4. Ugh, sorry.
That was the
4
best
s'mores.
and the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. Thank you.
Thank you.
S'more.
Yeah, 4, I think. It's great and fun. I think I'm not going to give it like it's not like a perfect score for me because I think I like to reserve my like perfect scores ones for the ones that speak to me and my experience of the world. But it was good.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
You and I, we're looking at the baseball playbook and we're on the same page. This is a 4 out of 5, right? It was a good movie. Nostalgic, lovely, baseball, America, 60s, yes. Anyway, I think it's about time that we ended this podcast.
It's about time, Anders. Frankly, my clothes are going out of style.
Going out of style now? Your clothes are already out of style, Emma.
Oh, shut up, you. Ugh.
Anyway, thanks for listening to this episode of Plot Twisters.
Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts.
Bye-bye.
Bye.